everybody, my name is Angel and welcome back to my little corner of the internet. If you're new here, welcome and I hope you stick around. As you saw in the title, today we're going to be talking about an anime called Princess Jellyfish. It's another super duper short one. It's 11 episodes. If you remember, the one I talked about last week is 12. They're about 20 minutes apiece, so again, it was really easy to finish in a single sitting. But before we get into any of that, let's talk about our characters, shall we? The main character is a girl named Tsukimi. She's 19 years old, very much an ugly duckling type of character. She's very shy and nervous around people with... I'm actually not sure if she has freckles or pimples, but her skin isn't super duper great. She wears glasses. And she wants to be an illustrator. Excuse me. That's about it as far as personality goes. Oh, she also really likes jellyfish. And I think it's trauma related, but we'll get to that. Anyway, onto her friends or housemates, whatever you want to call them. There's a woman named Mayaya who dresses like, I don't actually know her name, the coach from Glee. If any of you have ever seen Glee, the cheer coach woman who's always in a tracksuit. Yeah, this Mayaya character always wears tracksuits and does not have an inside voice. She's literally yelling for the entire show. My brain can't handle it. There's also Gigi, who is Mayaya's polar opposite. She talks so quietly that I can barely hear any of her lines in the entire show, even with the volume turned all the way up to 100. The problem is, Mayaya will go from yelling, and she'll go to whispering, Gigi I mean. And I don't like changing the volume constantly, so I just accepted that I was never going to hear any of Gigi's lines. I hope she doesn't say anything important. It doesn't seem like she does. There's Bamba, it's Bamba. I wrote Bombo here when I was making my notes for the characters because I didn't know what the names were. It was really hard to hear them and they didn't tell us any of their names until like the 3rd episode. So anyway, Bamba doesn't talk very much. She's very chill. She's born on a leap year and she can pick out what meat is going to taste the best simply by looking at it. That's about it as far as Bamba's personality goes. I don't know, man. The last member of this ragtag team of misfits is Shiego. She is the building manager for the apartment that they all live in, and she's super duper anal about the randomest things. Also, she collects dolls. Anyway, all of these women, by the way, are like in their 30s, but they don't tell us that until like the 4th episode, and I think it's kind of bizarre that Suki, I'm gonna call her Suki for short. I wrote Suki in my notes. I meant to mention that when I was talking about her. The main character is Tsukimi. I'm gonna just call her Suki because they call her that a lot. It's bizarre to me that this 19-year-old is living with a bunch of 30-year-old women in Tokyo, but hey, it is what it is. The last character that we're gonna give a pre-introduction is Kuranosuke, who I will call Kira for short because he goes by more than one name during the show. So Kira for short. He's pretty dope. He's a funky, fresh dude. He's pretty outgoing and the polar opposite of all of the other characters that I just talked about, in the sense that while they're all shy, nerdy, and don't know how to socialize, he's a socialite's son. He's a politician's son, technically. And he's also super duper outgoing and funny. Anyway, on to the plot of this story now that I finished all of the character introductions. The thing with this show is, despite being only 11 episodes and not having a super duper complex plot, it was super difficult to follow. For no other reason than like the editing style and like the dialogue was super duper disjointed sometimes and like very over the top. The reactions were all unnecessarily dramatic and there were times where they were just screaming and you couldn't actually tell what was being said because everyone was just overreacting to things, and I don't really know if that has to do with it being a dubbed anime. It might have to do with the fact that the plot of this show starts out one way and then halfway through they introduce a completely different conflict, and that's fine. You know, it's totally normal for them to have more than one conflict in a drama or an anime, but they all but abandon the first plot that they introduce at the beginning of the show, and it doesn't actually amount to anything by the end. But we'll get there. So basically, there's a scene at the beginning where the main character, Suki, is with her mom at an aquarium, and they're looking at jellyfish, and it's a really great time for them both, and then her mom is like, when you eventually get married, I'll make you a dress that mimics the fluidity of jellyfish. And then we jump forward in time. Suki, present day, is 19. She's just moved to Tokyo like 3 months ago, and she's working towards being an illustrator. She lives in an apartment with Mayaya, Shiego, Gigi, and Bamba out in like a sort of rural area in Tokyo. It's more of a suburban area of Tokyo. It's not like in the heart of the city or anything like that. They're all self-proclaimed otakus who, of course, don't have boyfriends. That's the exact line. She says, of course, none of us have boyfriends. And I was like, why is that an of course statement? And they call themselves the Sisterhood anyway. And then we learn that Suki's mom is dead. She does this thing throughout the show where she says, hey mom, and then she like updates her on what's going on. And initially I thought, oh, these are letters that she like wrote her mom. No, her mom's dead, so she's just kind of like talking to her mom's spirit, essentially, because I guess anime characters can't exist without some form of trauma. Anyway, Suki went to part of Tokyo, I don't remember where. She went to some like shopping district basically because she was trying to go to a jellyfish aquarium, and it was super duper busy, and she freaked out as soon as she got there and went home, and everyone was like, yeah, we told you it was going to be super busy and you shouldn't go there, because none of them have the social capacity to exist in spaces that have more than 2 people besides them, I guess. After her failed attempt at going to the jellyfish aquarium, we find out that Suki's quite fond of a jellyfish in a pet store that I guess is near her house. And she goes to visit it one night because she's feeling down. And her little friend, the jellyfish, has a new housemate in her tank. Except it's a different type of jellyfish. So the jellyfish she likes is a spotted jellyfish, and the jellyfish that's new to the tank is a moon jellyfish. Apparently, moon jellyfish produce some sort of mucus that will eventually kill the spotted jellyfish if they're left in a small tank together. So she tries to knock on the door to get the attention of the person who is working, even though the shop is closed. So I don't really know what he's doing there. Is it normal in Japan for people to work shifts when the shops are closed? I don't know if anyone can answer that question because the pet store is closed. He's just sitting there reading a magazine at the counter. I know graveyard shifts are a thing, but aren't those usually for places that remain open at night? Anyway, I digress. So she knocks on the door and he's like, can't you tell that we're closed? And she tries to explain that the jellyfish and the tank can't be together because one of them will die. And she is having a really difficult time articulating that in normal words because she refers to him as one of the stylish, which, as I understand it, are just everyone else that's not an otaku. She has a really hard time articulating to him what she's trying to say, and he thinks that she's weird, so he tries to kick her out. He pushes her away from the door, and a woman shows up and is like, do you know this girl? And he's like, no, of course not. And the woman is like, so you're just pushing around strangers? That's so disrespectful. And he tries to say something, and she's like, I just wanted to let you know, Suki, she's like, I just wanted you to know that those 2 jellyfish can't live together or one of them will be dead by morning. And so the lady who came to save her was like, okay, just give us the jellyfish. We'll take it home. The one that was going to die. Her little spotted jelly friend. Like, the shop guy is like, I don't know if we can do that. And she's like, I mean, if he's gonna die anyway, just tell your boss that she died in the middle of the night. Give us the jellyfish. So they take the jellyfish. Suki is still freaking out because the woman who helped her is also a stylish. She's super duper tall with bubblegum pink hair, super duper long. She's dressed to impress. She's dressed to kill. They take the jellyfish, the girl walks her all the way to her house, they put the jellyfish in the bathtub, and then Suki's like, hey, you gotta go. Because apparently all of her housemates will, like, flip if one of the stylish is found in their home? I don't know, I don't get it, it doesn't make sense to me. But she tries to kick her out, and then Mayaya, I guess, is trying to go shower or go to the bathroom or something, and sees this woman and sure does lose her mind. She turns to stone because apparently that's the default reaction for otakus, or specifically the sisterhood, I think. When they encounter one of the stylish, they turn to stone. And this is something that remains true throughout the entire show, and it's probably one of the most annoying reactions in the entire thing, because they like scream and then they go, and they like turn to physical stone. It's not just that they're frozen, like they animate the characters in stone. Why? Suki takes Miss Stylish to her bedroom because she doesn't want the rest of the sisterhood to see her. And then the Stylish rolls over and falls asleep on her floor. She's like, anyway, I've been out. It's real late. So she just falls asleep like in 10 seconds. Suki's like, you can't sleep here, but she's already out, so like it doesn't matter. You got a new housemate, I guess. The next morning we find out that Miss Lady is actually a boy. This is Kuranosuke. I didn't mention this when I talked about him as a character because I wanted to go through this the way I did when I watched the show. Kuranosuke cross-dresses for fun. He's not trans and he is straight. He just cross-dresses for fun. At least I think he's straight. His sexuality isn't mentioned. He said he was normal, so I don't know. Anyway, Suki absolutely loses her mind finding out that the lady who helped her get the jellyfish the night before is in fact a man, because apparently boys aren't allowed in the sisterhood's apartment. But like, it's not like a building rule. They just don't like men. Anyway, something happens. They're apparently trying to fill a vacancy in their apartment, and initially I thought, hey, maybe they'd end up adopting Kira because they think Kira's a girl, and then it would be a story of trying to keep Kira's identity a secret. How I find out that they really dislike men is that a gay couple applies and Maya goes on this super duper loud rant about how a gay man is still a man and yada yada yada. It's really weird because she says something about how they expect the sisterhood, how Maya thinks that these gay men expect the sisterhood to fawn over their gayness, and that didn't make sense to me. I think they're just looking for a place to stay. But anyway, apparently there's another woman who lives in this apartment who never comes out of her room. She's a manga artist. I believe they specifically called her a boy love manga writer. And the rest of the sisterhood mostly just animate the pages for her, so they do all of the drawings for her mangas. She never leaves her room. So she's like otaku queen, I guess. I don't know. Whenever they have a question for her, they write down letters and like slide them under her door for her to respond to. It's like she's their oracle or something. And Suki goes to her and says, hey, what would happen if one of us brought a boy into the abode? Her response, it's written all over the page. I'm assuming it says death, because Kira comes to visit later and Suki's like, you can't be here, I don't want to die, da, 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 da. And I'm like, wow, y'all really do hate men, huh? What is going on? Kira comes by to visit again while they're having like their weekly hot pot dinner, and like everyone is shocked to stone. Anyway, Maya asks Suki to make Kira leave, and Kira doesn't. And so Shiego tells Kira that nobody in the house is interested in being friends with him. Kira's dressed as a girl again because Suki informed him that men are not allowed in their abode. So he just goes dressed as a girl whenever he wants to hang out. And they all think that he's a girl for the entirety of the series. It never changes. They never find out that he's a boy. Anyway, this is when we find out that Kira's family is like super duper rich, and that his dad's a politician, and his father at the very least does not approve of his hobby. His older brother, Shu, doesn't seem super supportive either. I'm a little conflicted on whether or not he cares. He judges him a lot, but it seems like it's mostly just because he knows their father doesn't approve, and he also doesn't understand why he does it. But he seems pretty fine with it for the most part. He just doesn't want his dad to like get mad at him, I think. And then we find out that Kira's uncle is down for the cause. He like flips it every time he sees Kira, and he's like, oh my god, you look so pretty. He like turns into this huge fangirl. It's kind of cute, I'm not gonna lie. And then we find out that Kira dresses the way he does partially just because he's into fashion, and also to piss off his dad intentionally because his parents are into politics. He wants nothing to do with politics, so he's hoping that if he pisses them off like enough, they'll let him do what he wants with his life, although it doesn't seem like anyone's really pushing him towards politics for most of the show anyway, so I don't really know why it matters so much. But I digress. Anyway, fast forward a little while, Kira gives Suki a makeover, and then she completely loses her mind and runs away. Kira's older brother Shu saw her leaving. That's a note for later. But Suki runs away and like starts freaking out, and she's like mumbling to herself as she runs home, and she's like, I have to get this off of my face. If the sisterhood sees me like this, they'll burn me at the stake. I'm a little confused why the sisterhood is so against dressing in clothes that are flattering, especially because they're all old women who I guess are just bitter because a man has never looked at them. But Suki's 19. Why are you making her act this way? Like, she's so panicked. Like, not because she's uncomfortable, she's freaking out because she knows the sisterhood is going to react badly to her being dressed in a dress and light makeup. And then she says, I don't want to be beautiful, I just want to be me. And I'm like, wow, it feels like they have completely manipulated you into thinking that beautiful is bad, because those aren't mutually exclusive. You can look pretty and still be yourself. I don't really think one has anything to do with the other. Turns out the sisterhood is just a bunch of closed-minded freaks who are absolutely obsessed with the not like other girls trope, and it doesn't make any sense to me because these are all 30-year-old women. Why are you still acting like you're in high school? What is going on? Jesus Christ. Anyway, like I mentioned earlier, Kira's older brother sees Suki leaving their house, and then he thinks she's really, really cute, but then we learn that Kira's older brother Shu is also like 30 years old, and that makes me just mildly uncomfortable because, again, Suki is 19. She's younger than me, and while I don't have any issue with age gaps inherently, I do think it's a little bizarre when people do the sort of predatory thing about going after someone who's like a decade younger than them. It feels groomy, even if the person is an adult. She's only 19. He's like 31, 32 maybe. Please stay away from people that are super, like, at some point age no longer matters, but when you're 19 and the person is 30, it absolutely matters. Your life is just beginning. It's always inherently wrong because they end up trying to parent their adult partner. Anyway, that is not at all what this is about. I just saw something on Twitter that had to do with pretty much the exact same age gap, where this guy met a girl when she was like 20 and he was 30, and it made me super uncomfortable because he was being super duper controlling with her. But anyway, sorry, I got so off track. Shu sees Suki running out when she's like all dressed up and in her little makeup or whatever, so I guess he's under the impression that she's a-stylish, even though normal people don't use that term for themselves. But he's under the impression that she's a-stylish. Kira realizes that Shu thinks she's cute and sends Shu to their apartment with her glasses and her sweats that she left when she ran out frantically. Shu goes to drop them off, but at this point Suki has put back on her normal clothes. She's wearing an old pair of glasses and she can't get the makeup all the way off her face because she doesn't own makeup remover because the sisterhood is anti-makeup, I guess. So when he drops off the stuff, she grabs them from him, but he doesn't even realize that it's the same girl that he saw leaving his house. And also, the spotted jellyfish that they rescued at the beginning of the show is named Claire. She sometimes is personified. That's the word I was looking for. She explains things to the audience because even though this is an 11-episode show with a very simple plot, it's still super difficult to follow. Claire is by far my favorite character. She'll pop up and be like, Claire here, and then explain why the sisterhood is like having conniptions over simple things like what do you work or like how old are you, things like that. Anyway, Kira finds out that there are plans to demolish the building that Suki and her otaku friends live in, and he goes to tell them, but they already know because there's like a newsletter in their neighborhood that they obviously read. And somehow this leads to him going to the aquarium with Suki, and Shu goes along with them because at this point he's trying to set them up, I think, or something of the sorts, because his brother has had not a single girlfriend in all of his 30 years of living. For the aquarium, Kira got her all dolled up all over again so she looks cute, and Shu spends the entire day fawning over her every response everything she says about the jellyfish is absolutely adorable to him. And at first Kira's fine, and then he starts to get a little bit jealous. He goes to the bathroom to try and calm himself down, and when he comes back, she was hugging Suki, and so Kira freaks out, and then we find out that Suki had burst into tears and Shu only hugged her to comfort her, and now she's run to the bathroom and she's having a panic attack over the fact that Shu hugged her and that she burst into tears in the middle of the aquarium. And Kira comes into the bathroom to comfort her, and apparently she burst into tears because the jellyfish reminded her of her mom. Anyway, then they all go back to their respective homes, and there's several scenes of Shu freaking out and then a couple of Suki freaking out. And then the sisterhood goes to a presentation about the development plans for the area where they live. Shu is at the development presentation. Suki sits right next to him, but he has no idea that it's her because he's a moron. And according to Claire, Homo sapiens are stupid. Again, Claire is my favorite character in this entire show. Moving on, Kira goes to visit Suki, who's moping in her room, and then he gives all the girls makeovers and makes them go to a cafe, something about dressing for the war you're trying to fight. He tells them that no one's gonna take them seriously in trying to save their apartment building if they all look like they're homeless. Meanwhile, Shu gets drugged. The woman who's in charge of the development plans puts some sort of tablet in Shu's drink when the two of them go to the bar after the development presentation because her goal is to get his dad to sign on board or endorse the development plans. Something involving getting his dad's agreement with her development plans. So she roofies him, takes him back to her apartment, undresses him, and takes pictures of the two of them in bed together that she uses as blackmail for the next few episodes of the show. When he eventually wakes up, he just wants to leave. He's like, where are my clothes? Yada yada yada. He eventually gets them, and she says something that insinuates that they did something, which they didn't. She didn't actually touch him. Not that that makes this any better. She still kidnapped him and harassed him by undressing him in his unconsciousness. But she says something that insinuates that they did something, and he shoves her down the hallway. It's actually a little bit funny. And then he gets home, and Kira's like, whoa, you look like you've just been molested. And then Shu has a sort of crisis where he's like, oh, did that just happen to me? And shout out to the show for not making it seem like men can't be victims of assaults. Anyway, then we find out that Shu actually caught his dad with Kira's mom when he was 9 years old. They were like making out or something in a closet, question mark. He has some weird misplaced trauma where he refuses to go near women ever. And then we learn that apparently him and Kira are half siblings. Although technically this isn't the first time they mention this, because throughout the show Kira makes references to wanting to find his mom's address, and she was like, I have no idea where you could find that information. I don't know why they're keeping his mom such a big secret from him, and they never really explain why his mom left him with his dad at all. I just feel like there's some unanswered questions there. But anyway, after Shu gets home and contemplates whether or not he's been molested, he drives to Suki's house and asks her if he can hold her hand, and then he leaves. Like, they hold hands for a hot second and then he leaves. I don't know why he did that. He never explains it to anybody. Not to the driver, not in his head, not to Suki. It's a weird scene. Fast forward a bit, there's a scene where Suki and Kira almost kiss, and then Kira's losing his mind, and Suki doesn't even realize that it happened because Kira had cornered her against the wall and they were talking, and then she closed her eyes and he leaned in, but they didn't kiss because someone flew open the door and they like separated, they yeeted from each other. Anyway, nothing actually comes of that. Kira yells at her for not acknowledging that they almost kissed, and then she's like, oh well, but we didn't. Anyway, moving on, Kira comes up with a plan for them to buy their apartment building so that it doesn't get sold, because Shiego's mom owns the building, but she's not answering Shiego's calls, so nobody knows if she has plans to sell the building or not. And she's also out of town right now, so they have a little bit of time. So The crew goes to a flea market, and initially they're selling like china, and Suki had made a little good luck cloth jellyfish doll. They're actually really cute, and someone wants to buy the jellyfish doll, so then they make a bunch of jellyfish dolls and sell those. Claire roasts the sisterhood for being lazy later on. I'm skipping forward. There's a couple episodes where nothing of importance happens. I believe it's episode 8 and episode 9. Nothing happens that matters, and at this point I'm completely exhausted from watching the show, but I set out on a mission. I had plans to make a video for this show, so I had to finish it. Anyway, like I said earlier, Shu's being blackmailed by the developer lady with some pictures that she took while he was unconscious. Suki finds out because the developer chick keeps telling everybody that they're dating, and Suki has a little bit of a breakdown over the situation because I think she was developing a crush on Shu, but I don't really know how I feel about the situation because at this point it's pretty obvious that Kira has a crush on her, and there's a couple scenes where it seems like she has feelings for Kira as well, so I'm like, girl, you gotta pick a brother. This is not Vampire Diaries. Anyhow, Kira decides that he wants Suki to make a dress out of one of her jellyfish drawings because she draws jellyfish for fun. I don't know where he gets the idea, but he's like, yeah, we should make a dress based off of your jellyfish designs. And Suki, Shiego, Gigi, and Kira all go to Kira's house and they make a jellyfish dress, and then Suki has a moment of awakening, question mark, where she realizes that she's actually kind of digs the fashion design thing, and so she makes a second dress. While they were at Kira's house all night and Bamba and Mayaya went out to do something or the other, Bambo and Mayaya come back to their apartment to find it blocked off by tarps. Turns out that that was the wrong building. They were actually trying to demolish some other building, so they took the tarps down. Nothing bad happened. But they still are freaking out because eventually their house is going to be the one that they're demolishing. It just hasn't happened yet. So they enter a fashion competition of some sorts with the jellyfish dress. And after seeing Kira walk on stage, it's pretty obvious that Suki has a crush on him, but I already knew that. She just goes through a lot of moments where she's like, this boy is so pretty, so like, why do I feel the way I feel? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, he's cute as a boy and a girl. Although while I was watching it, one of my friends FaceTimed me and I showed her what Kira looked like as a girl, and I was like, he makes a really good girl. And she's like, I don't know, he looks a little too much like a white woman for me. And in defense of Kira, sometimes he doesn't. The outfit he was wearing when I showed her, he had like this short blonde bob that looked sort of like a white woman in the 1940s. But again, he has various wigs in various styles, so his hair changes color pretty much every day, like me. I mean, it hasn't done it in a while because I'm not wearing my wigs right now. This is my hair. But when I wear my wigs like on campus, my hair changes pretty often. It's pretty dope. They win the competition with the jellyfish dress, so that's pretty dope. And Suki says something about comparing Kira's grace to a jellyfish. I'm only mentioning that because I wrote here, the way this girl relates everything to jellyfish is kind of annoying, but it's whatever because trauma. Because she also compared Shu to a jellyfish earlier in the show, and I was like, I get that jellyfish are the only thing that you're interested in, but girl, get it together. Anyhow, the show ends with Shiego's mom coming back and telling them that she has no plans to sell the apartment building. Suki gives some voiceover about how Tokyo is going to be filled with adventure. It seems like the ending is supposed to give way to like a possible second season, but I don't think it got one, or it's going to get one, because the show came out in 2010, and I know animes have a tendency of waiting several years before releasing another season, but to be fair, I really don't think a second season of this show would really mean anything to me unless we got to explore A, her fashion design journey, because that seems to be where her interests have gone by the end of the show, and B, her love triangle that was sort of underdeveloped in the entire show. And see, that's what I mean, because at the beginning it seems like the show is mostly going to be about her and Kuranosuke's relationship and the budding and the changing and the growing, and then we introduce this random plot point about them trying to fight the development of their neighborhood from their apartment building to some fancy hotel that's going to leave them all homeless. And I mean, I guess technically the one about the apartment building comes to a close with Shiego's mom saying she's not selling the building, but they didn't actually have to do anything. There was no point, like, and they don't actually make any sort of conclusive close for the love triangle situation. Anyway, if you were gonna do a plot about her trying to save her apartment building, you should have just did that. There was no point in introducing a love story that you weren't gonna even try to complete by the end of the show. That's essentially my verdict on the show. It was really hard to sit through. Again, all of their reactions were super duper over dramatic and unnecessarily extra about everything. But I've been sitting here for 45 minutes, so this has been Princess Jellyfish in a nutshell, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Wait, before you go, at the end of each of my videos, I ask a question for you to drop an answer to down below in the comment section if you feel like it. This week's question is, what is your favorite anime? I realize that for people who watch anime a lot, it can be really hard to pick a favorite, because I have a friend whose anime watch list goes like 200 animes deep. So if you have a favorite anime, go ahead and answer this question down below, and I'll probably check it out, because I've only watched like 8, and so far my favorite would probably have to be The Devil is a Part-Timer or Uran High Host Club. I think both of them were really cool. The Devil is a Part-Timer was really funny, and I kind of quite enjoy the humor in Uran High Host Club, both the sub and the dub. I don't find a lot of dubbed animes that are really good, so I kind of like that that one was dubbed so well. It's really hilarious. The humor isn't lost in the dub for Uran High. Anyway, this is the real end of the video. Thank you so much for listening to my convoluted telling of Princess Jellyfish in a nutshell. I hope to see you all again next time. Bye-bye.